All right, so this deep dive is a little different than what we normally tackle. You listeners have really thrown me a curveball this
Oh,
time.
is that right?
Yeah, you sent in Fortune Alchemy, Mastering Luck and Shaping Destiny. So, manifesting your own luck, huh?
Sounds intriguing.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little skeptical. But hey, I'm always down to explore new ideas, especially when you all request them. So let's see what this Fortune Alchemy is all about.
Well, it makes sense to be a bit skeptical. I mean, luck seems like something that's totally out of our control, right? It's random.
Right, like winning the lottery or bumping into a long-lost friend.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, those kinds of things.
Exactly. But what's interesting is that this fortune alchemy concept suggests that we can actually create conditions that make us more receptive to those lucky breaks. And it all starts with being really clear about what we actually want in life, what our dream life looks like.
Okay, so instead of just hoping for the best, we're taking a more proactive approach. I like that. But the source goes even further than just setting goals. It talks about designing our dream life down to the very last detail, like what our homes look like, what we're doing day to day, even the feeling of a breeze through the window. Isn't
Mhm.
that a bit much?
Might seem like overkill, but there's actually a reason the source emphasizes those sensory details. It's about more than just daydreaming. Research actually shows that when we engage all of our senses in the visualization process, it makes the vision feel more real and tangible.
Hmm. So it's like we're tricking our brains into thinking it's already happening.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
When we vividly imagine something, it activates more areas of the brain, strengthening those neural pathways associated with that vision. And that makes us more likely to recognize and act on opportunities that align with that vision, opportunities we might have otherwise missed.
So it's like we're priming ourselves to spot those lucky chances that are already out there. We just need to train our brains to see them. That's pretty cool. But hold on a second. It can't just be about manifesting material possessions or winning the lottery, right? There's got to be more to it than that.
Absolutely. Fortune Alchemy emphasizes that true luck encompasses all areas of life. It's about fulfilling relationships, meaningful work, vibrant health, a sense of purpose.
Right. It's about designing a life that feels good on all levels, not just the superficial stuff.
Right. It's about aligning your life with your core values and aspirations.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But how do we actually bridge the gap between this detailed vision and our current reality? It's one thing to dream it up, but how do we make it happen?
Well, the source suggests a two-pronged approach. It's about combining positive affirmations with aligned action.
Okay. Break that down for me.
So you're not only vividly picturing your dream life, but you're also stating your intentions out loud as if it's already happening.
Hmm.
And then you start taking small steps, even tiny ones, that move you in the direction of that vision.
So give me an example. What kind of small steps are we talking about?
It could be anything from researching a new career path to saving a small amount of money each week, or even just choosing a healthy meal instead of fast food.
Oh, I see. So it's about taking those baby steps, building momentum, creating a sense of possibility.
Exactly. It's about showing the universe that you're serious about making this dream a reality.
So let me get this straight. By combining a clear vision with positive self-talk and consistent aligned action, we can actually nudge ourselves closer to that ideal life, to experiencing more of those lucky moments.
That's the essence of fortune alchemy. It's about creating a sort of magnetic field that attracts opportunities to you. Now I'm curious, if you had to pick one detail from your dream life to start visualizing today, what would it be? What really gets you excited?
That's a tough one. There's so many things I'd love to manifest. But honestly, I think I'd start with having a dedicated space for writing. Like a cozy room filled with books and natural light where I can just get lost in my work.
That's a great one. And remember, the source would encourage you to really go deep with that visualization. What kind of desk do you have? What's the view like outside the window? What scents are in the air? The more vivid you make it, the more powerful it becomes.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so we've planted the seeds of our dream life. We're visualizing, taking those baby steps, affirming our intentions. But let's be real. It's rarely a straight path from A to B. Life throws curveballs. So how does fortune alchemy address those inevitable obstacles and setbacks that we're bound to encounter along the way?
That's where the concept of mapping the possible comes in. It's about understanding that there isn't just one single route to get to where we want to be.
Okay, I like where this is going.
The source uses the analogy of reaching a distant island. You could sail straight there, or you might need to stop at other islands along the way, gathering resources, adjusting your course based on the winds and currents.
I love that analogy. So it's about being open to different paths, recognizing that there might be multiple ways to achieve our goals.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And just as a skilled sailor uses a map and compass to navigate fortune alchemy, encourages us to do our research, brainstorm alternative strategies, and be willing to adapt our course as needed.
So it's about flexibility and having a plan B and maybe even a plan C. Makes sense. But how do we know which path to take? The source talks about evaluating opportunities as they arise, some being stepping stones, others potential distractions. How do we tell the difference?
That's where discernment comes in. And it ties back to the earlier concept of intuition.
So we're not just blindly following any opportunity that comes our way. We're using our intuition as a compass to guide us towards those paths that feel right.
Precisely. Fortune alchemy encourages us to pay attention to those subtle signals, those gut feelings that tell us whether something is aligned with our overall vision or not.
So it's about trusting our gut, even if it doesn't make logical sense.
Exactly. It might be a sudden burst of excitement, a sense of ease and flow, or conversely, a feeling of contraction or resistance.
This whole mapping the possible thing sounds great in theory, but sometimes the fear of making the wrong choice can be paralyzing. What if we overthink it and miss the boat entirely?
That's a valid concern. And fortune alchemy acknowledges that fear can be a major obstacle. But it also emphasizes that failure isn't the end of the world. In fact, it reframes failure as an opportunity to learn, adapt, and pivot towards a more aligned path.
So instead of beating ourselves up for making a wrong turn, we can view those experiences as valuable feedback, course corrections that ultimately lead us closer to our destination. I like that.
It takes some of the pressure off, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Okay, so we've got our vision. We're open to exploring different paths, and we're embracing those inevitable bumps along the way. What's next on this Fortune Alchemy roadmap? What active steps can we take to start manifesting those lucky breaks?
Well, now we dive into the building blocks of dreams. It's not enough to simply wish for things to happen. We need to take concrete action. And the key, according to the source, is breaking down those big daunting goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by the sheer scale of our dreams, we're creating a series of achievable milestones.
Exactly. The source advocates for setting what are called SMART goals.
SMART goals.
Yes, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, I'm following. So let's say my big dream is to write and publish a novel. That can feel pretty overwhelming if I just focus on the end result. How would I break that down into these SMART goals?
Well, instead of saying, I'm going to write a novel, you might set a goal to write 500 words every day. That's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to your overall goal. And you can give yourself a deadline, like the end of each week.
Oh, I see. So it's about creating those bite-sized chunks that feel less intimidating. And by achieving those smaller goals, we build momentum and confidence, which makes it easier to tackle the next step and the next. It's like we're creating our own luck by taking consistent action.
Exactly. And the source emphasizes that even the smallest actions, when done consistently, can create a ripple effect that leads to significant results over time.
It's like that old saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So if someone listening is feeling stuck or overwhelmed by their dreams, what's one small actionable step they could take today to get unstuck and start building momentum?
That's a great question. What's one small action, even just for 10 minutes today, that would move them closer to their goal? Maybe it's researching a new skill, reaching out to a potential mentor, or simply brainstorming ideas in a journal. The key is to start somewhere, anywhere, and keep the momentum going.
I love that. It's a reminder that we have more agency than we realize in shaping our own destiny. But I have to ask, what about those times when logic and planning just don't seem to cut it? What about those moments when we get a gut feeling, a hunch, an intuition that seems to come out of nowhere? Does Fortune Alchemy address this more intuitive side of decision-making?
Absolutely. In fact, the source dedicates a significant portion to the concept of intuition, describing it as a powerful guiding force in manifesting our desires. It's like a sixth sense, a way of accessing information that's beyond our conscious awareness.
Okay, this is where things start to get really interesting for me. I've always been fascinated by the idea of intuition, those moments when we just know something, even if we can't explain why. But how do we distinguish between genuine intuition and, say, wishful thinking or fear-based impulses?
That's a great question, and one that the source explores in detail. It suggests that true intuition tends to feel calm, expansive, and aligned with our highest good. It's often accompanied by a sense of peace and clarity, even if the message itself is urging us to step outside of our comfort zone.
So it's not that dramatic, heart-pounding feeling we often associate with big decisions.
Not necessarily. The source points out that fear can masquerade as intuition, especially when it comes to making changes or taking risks. Fear tends to feel constricting, urgent, and often rooted in a sense of lack or scarcity. It might tell us to play it safe to avoid anything that could potentially lead to pain or disappointment.
So how do we learn to discern between these two voices, between the whispers of true intuition and the shouts of fear? This seems like a crucial skill to master if we're trying to navigate our lives with more intention and create those lucky opportunities.
Absolutely, and the source offers specific practices for cultivating and trusting our intuition. Things like meditation, journaling, and spending time in nature to quiet the mental chatter and tune into those inner whispers. We'll delve into those techniques a bit later in our deep dive.
Sounds good. Now, I'm curious, have you ever had an experience where you followed a gut feeling, even if it didn't make logical sense at the time?
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
But I think we'll save those stories for other time.
Okay, deal. We'll leave our listeners hanging on a cliffhanger for now. Before we wrap up this first part of our Fortune Alchemy deep dive, I want to touch on one more concept that really intrigued me, this idea of words as powerful spells that shape our reality.
Ah, yes, the might of mighty words. This concept is explored in various spiritual and self-development traditions. The idea is that our words carry a vibrational frequency that can influence our thoughts, emotions, and ultimately our experiences.
So it's not just about positive thinking. It's about consciously choosing the language we use to describe ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. The source emphasizes that words have the power to create or destroy, to uplift or tear down. And while it might sound a bit woo-woo, at first there's a growing body of scientific research that supports the idea that our language patterns can impact our brain chemistry and even our gene expression.
Wow, that's fascinating. So if we're constantly bombarding ourselves with negative self-talk or complaining about our circumstances, we're actually reinforcing those negative patterns at a cellular level.
That's the idea. And conversely, if we consciously choose to use more positive, empowering language, we can start to rewire our brains for greater happiness, resilience, and even success.
So practically speaking, how do we start incorporating this might of mighty words into our daily lives? Does the source offer any specific techniques or practices?
Absolutely. One of the most powerful practices the source recommends is the use of affirmations. These are positive statements that we repeat to ourselves, either silently or aloud, to reprogram our subconscious beliefs and align ourselves with our desired outcomes.
Okay, so instead of saying things like, I'm so unlucky, or I'll never be able to afford that, we might say things like, I am open to receiving abundance, or I am capable of achieving my dreams.
Exactly. And the source suggests that the more we embody these affirmations, the more likely they are to manifest in our reality. It's about shifting our internal dialogue from one of lack and limitation to one of possibility and empowerment.
I can see how that shift in language could have a profound impact on our mindset and our actions. But does the source offer any guidance on how to make affirmations truly effective? I mean, it's one thing to repeat positive phrases, but how do we infuse them with real belief and power?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore in more detail in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve into specific techniques for crafting and using affirmations in a way that resonates with our authentic selves and aligns with our deepest desires.
Sounds good. I'm already feeling inspired to revamp my own vocabulary and start incorporating more empowering language into my daily life. But for now, we'll have to leave our listeners with that tantalizing cliffhanger. Okay, so last time we were talking about intuition, and you mentioned you had some stories about times you followed your gut even when it didn't make logical sense.
I do. You want to hear one?
Definitely. I think everyone loves a good intuition story. What happened?
All right. So this was a few years back. I was at a crossroads in my career. I'd been doing the same thing for a while, and it just wasn't fulfilling anymore.
I've been there.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in. So I was doing all the right things, networking, updating my resume, sending out applications, but nothing felt quite right. It was like my head was telling me to do one thing, but my gut was saying something else.
And what was your gut saying?
It's hard to explain, but it was this feeling that I needed to do something completely different, something creative, something that would allow me to use my skills in a new way.
I'm getting chills just listening to this. Did you have any specific ideas at that point?
Not really. It was more of a general sense of unease with my current path and a yearning for something more aligned with my true self.
So what did you do?
Well, around that same time, I stumbled upon a workshop on mindfulness and meditation. It wasn't something I had ever considered before, but something about it just called to me.
And you decided to go for it?
Yeah, it was a total impulse decision. But as soon as I walked into that workshop, I knew I was in the right place.
Wow. So your intuition led you to a new path through a seemingly random workshop.
Exactly. And that workshop completely changed my life. It introduced me to the power of mindfulness and meditation, which helped me to quiet my mind, connect with my intuition, and gain clarity on what I really wanted to do with my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're saying that by tuning into your intuition, you were able to uncover a path that you wouldn't have even considered otherwise.
Exactly. And it led me to where I am today. So sometimes those gut feelings, even the ones that seem illogical, can actually lead us to incredible opportunities.
That's such a great reminder to trust those inner nudges, even when we don't fully understand them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you were starting to tell a story before the break about a time you followed your intuition.
Oh, right. So this was a few years ago. I was feeling really burnt out in my job. I knew I needed a change, but I had no idea what direction to go in.
That feeling of being stuck is so common.
Yeah, and I was totally in my head about it, spending hours researching different career paths, making pro and con lists, but nothing felt right.
So what shifted for you?
Well, in the midst of all this overthinking, I had a dream, a really vivid one. I was walking through a forest, and I came across this beautiful clearing with a pottery studio.
A pottery studio.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. And in the dream, I felt this incredible sense of peace and joy, like I'd finally found my place.
The source mentions dreams as a potential source of intuitive guidance. It's like our subconscious minds are working through things while we sleep, offering solutions in the form of symbols and imagery.
Right. And the thing is, I'd never even considered pottery before. It wasn't on my radar at all. But the feeling in the dream was so strong, so real, that I decided to sign up for a beginner's class on a whim.
So you followed your intuition, even though it went against your logical mind.
Yeah, and it was a total game changer. It turns out I loved working with clay. It was like this creative outlet I never knew I needed. And the more I practiced, the more I felt this sense of purpose and fulfillment I had been missing in my work life.
That's a beautiful example of how intuition can lead us to unexpected opportunities that we might have otherwise overlooked.
Exactly. And while I didn't end up becoming a professional potter, that experience really opened me up to exploring other creative pursuits. It gave me the courage to eventually leave my unfulfilling job and pursue a career path that felt more aligned with my passions.
So that dream, that seemingly random, intuitive nudge, set off a chain reaction that ultimately led you to a more fulfilling life.
It did, and I think the key takeaway for our listeners is that intuition can show up in many different ways. It might be a dream, a sudden urge to do something, a gut feeling that you can't shake, or even a chance encounter that feels strangely meaningful. The important thing is to pay attention to those subtle signals and trust that there's a deeper wisdom at play.
And to learn to distinguish between genuine intuition and those fear-based impulses we talked about earlier. Remember, true intuition tends to feel expansive and aligned with our highest good, while fear tends to feel constricting and rooted in scarcity.
Right. And if we're not sure which voice we're hearing, the source suggests taking some time to connect with our inner selves through practices like meditation or journaling. It's about creating that space for clarity and discernment.
Absolutely. Now let's circle back to the concept of words as spells that we touched on earlier. The source suggests that one way to harness this power is through the use of affirmations.
Yes. We talked about how the words we use can actually shape our reality. And affirmations are a powerful tool for intentionally directing that creative power of language. But I think a lot of people struggle with making affirmations feel truly effective. They might repeat positive phrases, but it doesn't always translate into tangible results. What insights does the source offer on this?
Well, the source emphasizes that affirmations need to be personalized, heartfelt, and aligned with our deepest desires. They should feel like an authentic expression of who we are and what we truly want to create.
So instead of using generic affirmations that we find online or in a book, it's about crafting statements that resonate with our individual values, goals, and aspirations.
Exactly. And the source suggests a few key principles for crafting effective affirmations. First, they should be stated in the present tense as if the desired outcome is already happening. So instead of saying, I will be successful, you would say, I am successful.
Interesting. So it's about embodying the feeling of already having achieved the goal, rather than focusing on the lack of it in the present moment.
Precisely. The source suggests that this shift in tense helps to reprogram our subconscious minds to believe that the desired outcome is not only possible, but already in motion.
That makes sense. What else should we keep in mind when crafting affirmations?
The source also emphasizes that affirmations should be positive and specific. So instead of saying, I am not afraid of public speaking, you might say, I am a confident and engaging speaker, focusing on what you want to create rather than what you want to avoid.
So it's about framing the affirmation in a way that feels empowering and inspiring rather than focusing on the negative or the fear.
Exactly. And finally, the source suggests that affirmations are most effective when they are charged with emotion. It's not just about repeating words, but about feeling the truth of those words in your heart and soul.
So how do we infuse our affirmations with that emotional power? Any tips from the source?
The source recommends a few techniques for amplifying the emotional resonance of affirmations. One is to visualize the desired outcome while repeating the affirmation. Another is to speak the affirmation aloud with conviction and passion, as if you're giving a powerful speech. And finally, the source suggests incorporating physical movement or gestures that embody the feeling of the affirmation.
So if we're affirming abundance, we might stand tall, arms outstretched, feeling the energy of abundance flowing through us.
Exactly. It's about engaging all of our senses and our physical bodies in the process, making the affirmation feel more real and tangible.
Okay, so we've crafted our personalized affirmations, we're embodying them with emotion, and we're consistently repeating them. What happens next? How do these affirmations actually start to work their magic?
Well, the source suggests that affirmations are like seeds that we plant in the fertile ground of our subconscious minds. And just like any seed, they need time, nurturing, and consistent watering to sprout and grow into their full potential.
So it's not a quick fix or a one-time thing. It's about making affirmations a regular practice, integrating them into our daily routines, and trusting that they're working their magic behind the scenes, even if we don't see immediate results.
Exactly. And the source suggests that the more we repeat our affirmations, the more those positive thoughts and beliefs start to replace the old limiting ones that might have been holding us back.
It's like we're rewiring our brains for success and abundance, one affirmation at a time.
Now imagine combining the power of affirmations with the concept of catching the waves of coincidence that we discussed earlier. What if those seemingly random synchronicities are actually subtle responses to the vibrations we're putting out into the universe through our thoughts and words?
Oh, that's an interesting thought. So if we're affirming abundance, for example, we might start noticing more opportunities for abundance showing up in our lives, even in unexpected ways.
Exactly. It's like we're tuning our awareness to a different frequency, and as a result, we start attracting experiences that align with that frequency.
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing. But it also makes me wonder, what about the times when things don't go according to plan? What about those moments when we hit a roadblock, experience a setback, or face a challenge that seems insurmountable? Does Fortune Alchemy offer any guidance on navigating those difficult times?
Absolutely. In fact, the source devotes an entire chapter to the concept of letting go to let good in, suggesting that sometimes the key to manifesting our desires is to surrender our attachment to a specific outcome and trust in the wisdom of the universe. It's about recognizing that there might be a different path, a better path unfolding that we haven't even considered yet.
So instead of resisting those challenges or trying to force things to go our way, it's about releasing our grip and allowing ourselves to be guided by a higher intelligence.
Precisely. And this concept of letting go applies not only to external circumstances, but also to our internal world, our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. The source emphasizes that sometimes the biggest obstacles to our happiness and success are the limiting beliefs and negative emotions that we're holding on to.
So those old stories we tell ourselves, like, I'm not good enough, or I'll never be able to achieve that, can actually block the flow of abundance and good fortune into our lives.
Exactly. It's like we're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy based on those limiting beliefs.
That makes sense.
Hmm?
So how do we start to break free from those negative patterns and create more space for positive change and lucky breaks to occur? Does Fortune Alchemy offer any practical tools or techniques for letting go?
Absolutely. In fact, the source suggests several powerful practices for releasing limiting beliefs and cultivating a more positive and empowered mindset. And we'll dive into those techniques in the next part of our deep dive, exploring how to clear out the mental and emotional clutter that might be blocking us from experiencing the full potential of Fortune Alchemy in our lives.
Sounds good. I'm already feeling lighter just thinking about it. But for now, we'll have to leave our listeners hanging on the edge of their seats, eager to uncover the secrets of letting go and unlocking their full potential for manifesting luck and abundance. Join us for the final part of our Fortune Alchemy deep dive, where we'll explore these transformative practices and discover how to truly become the architects of our own destinies.
Until next time, remember that the power to create the life of your dreams lies within you.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Fortune Alchemy, and I'm really excited to dive into this idea of letting go to let good in.
Yeah, this concept feels like the cornerstone of everything we've been talking about creating that space within ourselves and our lives for those lucky breaks to flow in.
Right. It's like clearing out the clutter, both physically and mentally, to make room for new possibilities.
And the source suggests that one of the biggest things we need to let go of are those limiting beliefs that we've been carrying around.
Those pesky little voices in our heads that tell us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy.
Exactly. Those beliefs can really hold us back from achieving our full potential.
But why are they so powerful? Like, how do they actually affect our ability to manifest our desires?
Well, think of it this way. Our beliefs shape our perceptions and influence our choices. So if we believe we're not worthy of success, for example, we might subconsciously sabotage our efforts or miss opportunities that could lead us closer to our goals.
Oh, I see. So it's like we're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. We believe we can't do something, so we don't even try, or we give up easily.
Right. And the source points out that these limiting beliefs often stem from our childhood experiences. Messages we receive from our families or society that we internalized without even realizing it.
Wow, that's kind of scary to think about. So how do we break free from these limiting beliefs that have been ingrained in us for so long?
Wow. The source suggests a three-step process. First, we need to become aware of those beliefs. Notice those recurring patterns of negative self-talk or self-doubt.
Okay. So it starts with paying attention to our inner dialogue, becoming more mindful of those thoughts that are running on autopilot.
Exactly. Then once we've identified those limiting beliefs, the next step is to question their validity. Ask yourself, is this belief really true? Is there any evidence to support it? Or is it just an old story that's no longer serving me?
It's like we're putting those beliefs on trial, seeing if they can hold up under scrutiny.
Right. And often when we really examine them, we realize that they're based on fear, insecurity, or outdated information. And once we created that space of doubt, we can start to replace those limiting beliefs with more empowering ones.
So this is where those affirmations we talked about come into play, right? We can use affirmations to reprogram our subconscious minds with more positive and supportive beliefs.
Exactly. And the source suggests combining affirmations with visualization. So as you're repeating your affirmation, imagine yourself already living that reality, feeling the emotions, experiencing the sensations, and embodying the qualities you want to cultivate.
Oh, I love that. It's like we're creating a multisensory experience that makes the affirmation feel more real and believable.
Right. It's about engaging our minds, our emotions, and our bodies in the process.
But letting go isn't just about shifting our thoughts and beliefs, right? It's also about releasing negative emotions, like that anger, resentment, or guilt that we might be holding on to.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes that holding on to those negative emotions can be incredibly draining. It's like carrying around a heavy weight that prevents us from moving forward with ease and joy.
So those grudges we're holding, those past hurts that we keep replaying in our minds, they're actually creating energetic blocks that prevent us from manifesting our desires.
Exactly. And the source suggests that forgiveness, both of ourselves and others, is essential for creating space for healing growth and ultimately more luck and abundance in our lives.
Okay, but forgiveness isn't always easy. How do we even begin to let go of those hurts, especially if they've been with us for a long time?
It's definitely a process, and it requires patience, compassion, and a willingness to shift our perspective. The source suggests practices like journaling, meditation, and talking to a trusted friend or therapist. But the key is to move away from blame and judgment and cultivate understanding and empathy.
So instead of seeing ourselves or others as villains in our life stories, it's about recognizing that we're all doing the best we can with the resources we have in any given moment.
Exactly. And remember, forgiveness isn't about condoning hurtful behavior. It's about freeing ourselves from the burden of carrying those negative emotions. It's about reclaiming our power and choosing to move forward with grace.
This whole idea of letting go makes me think about another aspect of Fortune Alchemy that we've touched on, surrendering control.
Right. The source emphasizes that sometimes the key to manifesting our desires is to release our attachment to a specific outcome and trust in the wisdom of the universe.
It's like that saying, let go and let God. But in this case, it's not necessarily about a specific deity. It's about trusting that there's a higher intelligence, a force that's guiding us towards our highest good, even if we can't see the whole picture.
Exactly. And this surrender, this willingness to let go of the oars and trust the current, is essential for allowing those lucky breaks to flow into our lives.
It's about shifting from a mindset of fear and scarcity to one of trust and abundance, believing that the universe has our back and that everything is unfolding as it should.
Exactly. And that trust, that a willingness to surrender control, is a key ingredient in Fortune Alchemy. It's about aligning ourselves with the flow of life rather than resisting it.
This has been such a fascinating exploration. I feel like we've really gone deep into the heart of what it means to create our own luck. And I love how Fortune Alchemy emphasizes that we're not just passive recipients of luck. We have the power to shape our own destiny by cultivating the right mindset and taking aligned action.
Absolutely. And I hope our listeners feel empowered to start incorporating some of these principles into their own lives. To start visualizing their dreams, affirming their worthiness, trusting their intuition, and letting go of anything that's holding them back from experiencing their full potential.
That's a great message to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Fortune Alchemy. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and that you feel inspired to start creating your own luck. Until next time, stay curious, stay open, and trust that the universe has amazing things in store for you.